Hello, welcome to White David Gardening and Worm Farm. Today we're going to be talking a bit about organic pesticides and whether or not you can use yeast in your garden or in your worm bin. Okay, so what actually is organic pesticide? Organic pesticide is any pesticide that is made from natural sources. Of course, there are some pesticides that contains natural sources, but there are harmful chemicals that are not natural added to it. So for it to be natural or organic pesticide, it has to be made strictly of natural sources. And a lot of the pesticides that are considered natural, a lot of them are plant-based. Now, does that mean that because a pesticide might be organic, does that mean that all organic pesticides are safe? What do you think? Not all organic pesticides are safe. Some might be safe for humans and not safe for your pets, or they might be safe for pets but not necessarily safe for humans. So, to illustrate, you went on a trip in the wilderness and all of a sudden you see this nice, beautiful tree with the most beautiful fruits you've ever seen. And so you reach up and you grab a handful and you're about to eat it, and your tour guide said, "Stop! Don't eat that, it's poisonous." Well, the fruit is natural, but it is poisonous to humans. Hi, CC. So, in a similar sense, organic pesticides, not all of them are ideal. Some of them can be toxic. Now, when you're shopping for pesticides, because some of them can be harmful, you need to pay close attention to what is on the labels. You need to do your research as to the type of pesticide that you're getting and the side effects that they may have. Hi, Russell. Yes. So some of them are safe to use when used as a specified by the manufacturer. So you need to pay close attention to the manufacturer's instructions. Some pesticides have a specific time when they can be used. Some have some of them you have to use them sometime before you are harvesting your crops. Some of them you can use just before harvesting. So all of these information you need to check before you purchase or before you use them on your plants. Hi, Learn English at Home. Hi, Han White. Yes. So you want to check your labels also for the level of toxicity. For example, pesticides that are the least toxic will have the word caution, the word on it saying caution in uppercase letters. Those would indicate that they are not as toxic as others, while the more toxic type of pesticide will say danger in uppercase letters. So these word signals, they do not indicate potential harms to the environment but to humans. So pay close attention to the type of commercial pesticide that you are getting. Can a pesticide that is not harmful to humans harm some animals? Yes. For example, the pesticide Ryania. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly because I'm not really familiar with that type of pesticide. It is not harmful to humans, but it can be very toxic to fish. So if you have pet fish that you raise maybe outside near your garden or in your garden, then you need to be careful of this type of pesticides. Some pesticides, when combined with other pesticides, can be very toxic to beneficial insects such as bees. And one such example is a combination of pyrethrum combined with rotenone. Now, rotenone is also, it was approved by, oh, whatever those people are called. that, well, there goes my little brain. Yes, so it was previously approved, but afterward it has, they retract the approval because it is said to be harmful. Now, I don't use commercial pesticides, so I'm not too well. That depends on what type of commercial pesticides. But if they have funny names, not that there is anything wrong with funny names, but I don't specifically go out and buy pesticides except for a few that I'm going to be mentioning a little further on. So, do you guys use pesticides in your garden, and what type of pesticides do you use? Do you use store bought pesticides or do you create your own? Now, why is it important to read the labels on pesticides carefully and not deviate from the instructions that you are given regarding the pesticide? Now, the reason why these organic substances are used as pesticide in the first place is because they are harmful to some living organisms, and for that reason it is a good pesticide, and for that very reason it can be harmful to humans. So it is important to check. The next reason why you want to pay close attention to organic pesticide labels and follow the directions carefully is that manufacturers, along with the relevant authorities, would have done various research on these pesticides to find the formula that is going to be the least harmful to humans and to beneficial insects. So, with that in mind, the instruction that they give should be the best possible one to go by instead of trying to create our own. So, for that, these reasons, then we want to pay close attention to the instructions that are given on our labels. What are some common types of pesticides? There are numerous amount. The list is endless. So today I'm just going to be talking about a few of them, and I'm going to be telling the type of pests that some of them either destroys or control. BT is one of the most popular type of pesticides, especially for backyard gardeners. Now, BT is a biological pesticide, which means that it is a living organism that is lethal to some garden pests. When some insects eat it, it will actually produce a protein in their bodies that is poisonous to them and will result in their demise. BT has various strains, and so it can be used to control quite a wide variety of garden pests, including things like aphids, mites, moths, flies, mosquitoes, beetles, etc. The thing with BT, however, although it is a biological pesticide, and I guess it is the same for most pesticide, is that the more you use them, the more resistant these pests becomes to them. And so it is a good idea not to keep using the same type of pesticide year after year. It is always good to rotate your pesticide because you don't want your pests to get used to the pesticides that you're using. So keep on rotating it for the best results, because sometimes it can be difficult to find a type of pesticide that you are satisfied with. So for that reason, when you find a few that you are satisfied with, then keep on rotating them. The next one is Bovera bassiana. This too is also a biological pesticide. It is a fungus that infects insects such as aphids, ants, caterpillars, grasshoppers, mites, fungi, and harmful bacteria. When these pests eat this pesticide, then it keeps on multiplying in them until it kills the host. Russell says, I thought I would try a pesticide called spinosad. It is made from a bacteria found in sugarcane. Oh, BTI. It is made from a bacteria in the soil. Interesting, never heard of that. Well, I don't really do a lot with commercial pesticides, so I'm not familiar with the vast majority of what exists out there. Let's see, the spinosad seem to be harmless to worms. Okay, that's good to know. Then I read harmful to bees. I'm not going to use it. Oh, okay. Yes, thanks for sharing that information. Maybe I should jot that down. Not that I'm going to use it anyway, but just in case someone asked about it. Okay. And the good old popular other type of pesticide, neem oil. It has an unpleasant smell and a bitter taste, which makes it such a good pesticide. It repels a lot of insects. It is not harmful to humans and to beneficial insects, but it will harm pests. It can retard the growth of some pests. So most of the little tiny insects in your garden, your mites, your aphids, and stuff like that, neem oil is very good at controlling them. Hi, Leafy Wiggy. I use soap berries for saponin water. I am growing organic calendula to make a mild soap like insecticide. Oh, interesting. That's interesting information there. I'm going to snap a picture so I don't have to write it. Okay. Yeah, so neem oil is also very good for controlling pests in your garden. In fact, neem oil, it retards the growth of some of these insects, and it also damages some of their reproductive capabilities. Saponin is also an awesome wetting agent. What is an wetting agent? And the next type of pesticide is sulfur. Sulfur is probably one of the oldest used pesticide there is. It is not harmful to humans, but it may irritate the eyes and the skin. It is mostly used as a fungal treatment. So it is good for things like plant rusts and mildews. So the various type of plant rusts and mildews. It can also be used to treat things like thrips, psyllids, not that I know what psyllids are. It can treat mites, chiggers, ticks, and spiders. Now, sulfur comes in various forms. It can be liquid, it can be powder, or it can be granular. Because it is an irritant, then if you're using sulfur as a pesticide in your garden, it is a very good idea to wear proper clothing so that you won't have it on your skin. You want to make sure also that you wear a dust mask and rubber gloves. Let's see. Leafy Wiki says it thoroughly wets the soil and allow movement of water evenly in soil. Okay, interesting. Okay, thanks for that information. I'm gonna have to research that too. Let's see. Russell says worm castings will help. Worm castings will need a wetting agent if they go dry as they become hydrophobic. Okay. So does that mean that we can use the saponin on the worm in the worm castings? So what does this saponin look like? I've never heard of it. So what does it look like? Is it a liquid? Is it a granular? Is it a powder? What is it? Okay, so there are various types of oils. Some of them you can get them even in the supermarket that are good pesticides. So some of these plant-based oils include things like canola oil, orange oil, castor oil, soybean oil, mustard oil, and wintergreen oil. Canola originally was not edible to humans. So whenever you see canola as some oil or whatever type of food source, it has been genetically modified so that humans can consume it because of how cheap it is. That is why they insist on using canola oil. So I guess it is cheaper to produce even though it has to be modified than regular oils. Orange oil, castor oil, soybean oils, mustard oils, wintergreen oil. Of all the plant-based oil that has been approved as pesticide, wintergreen oil is the only one that is known to be harmful to humans if ingested in high doses. Now, these oils that I mentioned, they can either kill or repel pests from your garden. Some of them are even very good at repelling large animals, including cats and dogs. Hi, Majan. You see, you said I finally made a live chat. Hello, all. I just finished a day feeding black pies all day. They munched. I found out the thing they used to kill off. Okay. Yes, I'm glad you were finally able to make it. I know you're always saying that you're so busy that you keep missing out. Yes, so these are the types of pesticides that I have covered. I wanted to do more, but it's been the last 2 weeks have been pretty crazy. So crazy that I am way behind with my garden. I am way behind with looking after my worms. I think my worms might be very upset with me at the moment because they have not been getting the attention that they should be getting. It's just a stop and go that I have been doing with them in the last 2 weeks. So hopefully I will be able to get back on track pretty soon. Not sure when. Let's see. Macbejan says, oh, they're used to kill off mosquitoes in the forest. Okay. This concentrated garlic oil. Okay. Okay, so to address the questions that you asked about yeast, Russell. Yes, so can yeast be used as a soil amendment? Yes, yeast can be added to your garden. It can be added either directly to your garden or you can add it to your organic fertilizer before you add it to your garden. Hi, Garden Zebra. It so what is the benefit of yeast in the garden? And it is said that the yeast that you buy in the supermarket is not the best, but the brewer's yeast is better to use in your garden. So what is the benefit of yeast in the garden? For one, it increases the beneficial microorganisms that are in your soil. It When plants are watered with it, dissolved in water, then it tends to make your plants stronger. It stimulates plant growth, and it is ideal for plants that are lacking minerals, trace elements, and iron. Yes, that's my sentiments to Matt Bajan. He's quite advanced. He's always asking some really serious questions. I guess his little brain, well, our big brain, is always just working, trying to figure out the best way to get the most out of his worm farm and out of his garden. It seems he's always thinking of new solutions to see what works best. But I like it because then I get to learn a lot from him. Yeah, yeah, because yeast is not something that I would have given thought to regarding using it in the garden. But then I was quite surprised when I was doing some research. The amount of information that I found was just too much, was just too much information. And so, given that I was out of time to do the live, then I'll just share what I found with you. Yes, so how can you make a liquid yeast dressing? Using 1 kilogram of yeast with 5 liters of water, dissolve the yeast in it and mix it well. Now, this is going to be concentrated, and so when you're going to be using it on your plants, you want to dilute it 1 part of the yeast solution to 10 parts water. What about using yeast in your garden during winter? If you have cold winters, then using yeast in your garden does not work. It's actually going to be a waste because yeast require heat in order to become active. So for that reason, it's not a good idea to use it in your garden unless it is spring or summer. Hi, Binky Bunny Ways. Yeah, so some other benefits of using yeast in your garden is that it strengthens seedlings and making them more resistant to stress. It helps organic matter to break down faster, which is good because that's what we want, whether we're using it in the garden or we're using it to in our compost or in our worm bins. We want the organic matter to break down quickly. It improves soil fertility. It helps plant to develop strong, healthy roots. Yeast also help to make plants more resistant to pathogens. So these are just a few of the benefits that I found. So can yeast be added to your worm bin? It can be added to your worm bin, but it is recommended that you do so carefully because the yeast will increase the microorganisms that are in your worm bin, but yeast tend to be acidic. So for that reason, you have to be careful of it in your worm bin. Let's see. Leafy Wiggy says, I am back. I had to carry a bale of peat moss inside. Okay, welcome back. Um, Binky says, I hope everyone is doing great. Well, apart from being tired, I'm doing okay. Russell says, I started a 6-week top feed experiment with yeast yesterday. Started a 14-day experiment today with worms, that is. Oh, nice. I hope you're going to share the result of your experiment with us. Yes, it will be interesting. One person said that they use the yeast in water solution on their plants, and the drastic difference that she saw with the plants was phenomenal. She didn't elaborate on what was so phenomenal about it, but she said she was quite impressed with the result. Now, can you add yeast to your compost pile? Absolutely. As I mentioned before, yeast helps to break down organic matter. Therefore, if you want to speed up your rate of composting, then adding yeast to it would be a good idea. Now, buying yeast in a bulk can be expensive depending on where you are. And so, for those who would like to have yeast, whether to add in their worm bin or to just add to their fertilizer, if you have breweries around you, then the material that is produced or the refuse after they have extracted their wines or beers or whatever the case may be, you can collect that and use that in your garden because that is going to have a good amount of yeast in there. You see, I didn't even know that the other day when I was using the refuse from my husband's winery, if it qualifies as a winery. Yes, but I didn't even know that yeast had such benefits. So now I'm pretty happy that I put it in my compost bin. But I forgot to look if it is good for heating up the compost bin. I should have researched that. Oh, hi, Mom. Okay, so Matt Bajan says, give us updates, please, Russell. And Leafy Wiggy says, that sounds like quite the experiment. It does, doesn't it? Yes, so I should have researched to see if the yeast will actually help to heat up the compost pile. It would be interesting to find out. So, yeah, let me jot that down. I need to find out. Right. So you can get the yeast from breweries around you. And the good thing about yeast is that it grows, especially depending on the type of yeast that you get. So, with a small batch of yeast, you can actually feed your yeast to make it grow. My dad used to collect live yeast from the sea and grow it. He would just add water to it. I don't know if he added anything else to it. Mom, did dad add anything else to the yeast that he used to grow? Or was it just water? But he would grow the yeast just to get the water off it to drink, fermented water off it to drink. He used to call it kagasak. I don't know where he got that term from, but we used to enjoy it as kids, although they would only give us very small amount of it. Yeah, so you can actually grow your own yeast depending on the type of yeast that you have. Let's see, Russell says, if my worms and I agree, yeast will just become another ingredient in worm chow. But yes, I will update. Okay, good. If your worms agree. Okay. I guess you have to get their permission since as they're the ones that are going to be eating it, isn't it? Yeah, so that is all the information that I have prepared for you guys today. So how are your gardens coming on? It is quite warm where I am today, and it's going to be tomorrow. We're having an unusual day today because we are getting temperatures that you would normally get in July. It's 32 degrees today, and then tomorrow it's going to be 28 degrees, but then the temperature is going to drop back down to 14. And then in the next week, we're going to have -1 temperature overnight. Isn't that crazy? So it's so confusing. You don't even know what to do because they're saying we're gonna have -1 temperature 2 weeks for roughly 2 weeks from now, but that is after the last frost date for my region. So now I'm afraid to put up my plants. I'm not sure what to do because if we're gonna be getting -1 and feels like -5 after our last frost date, then I think I might be holding off on some of my plants going outside. Russell says, my general rule is no more than one ingredient added per year. My yeast source is $30 for 50 pounds. Whoa, that's a lot. That's cheap. Where are you, Russell? Where do you live? I forget that information. But that's a really nice price. Yes, Leafy Wiggy, the wind today, it was calm this morning and then it gets windy a few hours ago. But the wind is hot. I was outside planting my or sowing my cool weather crop seeds, and I was thinking, this wind feel like a hot day in Jamaica when you are by the seaside and that hot air is blowing on you. That's how it actually felt today. You had 50. Okay. So 28 degrees and 32 degrees is Celsius that we had. So this, I think your 50 might be Fahrenheit. Yes, it was it's pretty hot today. And then I did something stupid. I did something rather stupid. I was thinking, I want to transplant quite a few of my plants, not into the garden, but into different containers for those that I'm not going to be transplanting to the garden until June. And the reason I want to do that transplant is because I noticed that I have quite a few fungus knots in there, and the method of treating them takes time to get the results that I want. And so I wanted to transplant them out of that soil that has the fungus gnat larvae. So I decided I'm not going to be transplanting anything to the garden, but yet still I'm transplanting to other pots. So what is the difference? It's too hot to be transplanting anything now, but when you're too tired, sometimes it's best to sit back and not do anything because you make a lot of stupid mistakes. But I put some Epsom salt around the plants, so I'm hoping that that will rescue them. Let's see, Macbasian says at 20 degrees here in Muskoka, and the black flies are kicking in. Oh, installing a beach at a cottager's, and nothing can stop these black flies that spring here. Okay. Let's see. And White says, my garden is looking lovely, but they are getting too much, but we are getting too much rain and it is damaging my plant leaves. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, my dear. Okay, 50 was a mistake. 20 degrees. Okay. Russell says, I just may plant the garden beds on Tuesday and Wednesday. It is supposed to rain on those days. My plants are still under lights. No hardening off. The overcast, rainy days are when I plant. Okay. So you're preparing your raised bed tomorrow, Leafy Wiggy. Yes. So no, I'm not gonna be planting anything outdoors. So today, for the first time, all of my plants are outdoors being hardened off. So for the ones that are not used to being outdoors, because it is so hot, I try to keep them in the shade, and the rest of them, they have been going outdoors for maybe 2 weeks now, so they should be fine. But yes, so now today, as long as it is this hot, I'm only going to be sowing seeds. I'm not going to be transplanting anything. But it will be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of days. I did transplant my strawberries that I bought yesterday. They seem to be holding up under the heat. They didn't look any different from when I took them out of the pot or any different from when I bought them. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. I need a few to get a few more plants though, a few more strawberry plants because I don't have enough. Yes, so what I'm planning to do, I'm going to be prepping. I have the nutrients added to my raised beds already, but for those plants that I desperately need to transplant, but it's too hot now for me to transplant them, or for those that the weather is not appropriate to transplant them until June, I'm going to be prepping the bed for them. So the ones that I'm going to be transplanting in a day or two, I'm just going to be digging the holes, wetting the bed. Definitely going to be wetting the bed because it takes a long time for the soil to wake up the water because it hasn't been watered in so long. So I'm going to be wetting all the beds today so that when it is time to plant, it's going to be a lot easier for the soil to wake up the water. We are having drought here in Saskatchewan. They announced it 2 days ago that we are experiencing severe drought because from spring started, we haven't had a single rain. On Thursday, was that Thursday? Yes, on Thursday it drizzled for half an hour. It wasn't enough to even wet half an inch down into the soil. So that's all the rain that we've got in my region since spring started. So I don't know what is going to be happening. I have all my water system waiting for rain and nothing. So they say we're supposed to get rain probably next week for 3 days, but the percentage chance of having rain is not very high. Oh, it rained where you are? It rained hard for a few hours. Oh my goodness, that is so good. Yes, it just get overcast and it looks as if it's going to rain, but nothing is happening. And I so desperately want to see that rain. Yes, but I still don't have my system quite set up yet. The containers are there to catch the water, but I haven't connected any pipe system to it yet. But everything in its due time. We'll see what happens in the few weeks to come. But I really hope that I get rain those days that they say we're supposed to get rain. Yes. So Leafy, are you putting warm weather crops outdoors, because you said you have quite a few of your crops that you transplanted outdoors. So are you putting the warm weather crops outdoors already, or are you just putting out your cool weather crops? I am way, way, way behind. I've never been so behind with my garden before. But this year I'm way behind. It's a good thing that I got most of the things that I intend to grow started indoors, because if I was waiting and then I become this busy, all of a sudden the growing season is here and everything that needs to get done, not relating to my garden, everything just bombard on me right all at the same time. I have a house that I need to put siding on. I have my outdoor projects that I'm doing that's not related to my garden, and everything is just all at once. So now I hardly have enough time to get the garden started out. So I'm thinking I'm gonna cheat and try to get even 1 hour every day where I try to do something in the garden. But thankfully today I was able to get to be outside all day in the garden. But have you ever had so much to do that you don't know where to start? That's my day to day. Every now and then I say, okay, these are the most important things. I'm going to get these done. And then you start on them and you think, oh my goodness, this definitely has to be done today. And you switch to something else. So I don't know. And then this morning, last night, after I came home from work, I went outside and I took up my plants, which was about 9:30 in the night. Everything was quite okay. This morning, I went out in the backyard, and the temporary gate that I had put up, someone ripped it off and came into the backyard. I don't know what they were looking for, but there was an old rusted bike in the yard right up against the house, and someone came in and took that. I don't know if they tried to get into my garage, but thankfully I didn't forget to lock the garage. So I don't know if anything else is missing at the moment, but so far that old rusted bike is what's missing. But I'm just here laughing and says, yes, unless he's getting it for scrap metal, that fool, he didn't even know that he grabbed a bag of junk. So unless he's using it for scrap metal, it is of no use to him. But yes, that's what you get when you're a thief. You don't even know what you're getting. Bejan says, true. My business pick up right when I should be gardening. Yeah, I guess it's because the weather is warming up, so everybody wants to get their projects done at this time because we have such short, warm weather to work. But everything is just picking up right at the time when we're supposed to be gardening. It is crazy, but I'm thankful that I was able to start my stuff indoors, because I would be panicking like crazy, because I'm still panicking. I had to take my lettuce in. Only tray in jeopardy is my broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if maybe because I had the cool weather plants that I started in a video last week. Was it last week? Or week before last? The beets are doing okay. But as for the other cool weather crops that I started, anything that I started in the trays, they all died. I don't know if because I had them in the raised bed that is covered and maybe they got too hot. I don't know what it is, but they died. So now I'm just gonna be direct sowing my seeds. Oh, let's see. Where is Hi Growing with Jay? Sorry, I'm here rambling on and not paying attention to you. Sorry about that. Today was my first day of the year making up buckets outside. Last night used up the rest of the compost in 55-gallon drums from basement. Okay, nice. Yes, I'm going to be looking after my worms outdoors too. Pretty excited to be able to do that because I need to harvest those 250 eggs for my 500 subscriber giveaway. But then because everything is in my garage, and even with the lighting in there, it is still very difficult to see those eggs. So now that things have warmed up a bit, I need to get on that and harvest those eggs and get them all packaged. And then I can have my draw for those who are interested. So if you're on my live for and you didn't hear before, if you are interested in having a worm farm, then I'm going to be having a draw for my 500 subscriber giveaway, and I'm going to have 250 worm eggs, red regular eggs, for that draw. I'm thinking of adding other things to it. It can be castings. So if you're not interested in having worms, but you're interested in having castings, then you can just email me. My email address is usually below my videos, so in my descriptions. So you can just email me and let me know that you are interested in being a part of the draw, but you have to be one of my subscribers. So email me and I'll put your name in the draw. I still haven't finished creating that list of names yet. So I'm hoping that I can get that done by roughly the end of May. Yes, so it can be castings or it can be regular worm eggs. I would love to send worms instead of eggs, but because I'm not sure where the winner is going to be from and how long shipping is going to take to get there, worm eggs can last for 3 years if it doesn't have the right condition to hatch, whereas the worms will die off if they are in transit for too long. So for that reason, I am making it worm eggs instead of worms. Yes. So I'm gonna be getting on that as soon as possible. Yeah, I think my kids are starting to go a little bit crazy out there. I can hear them running up and down all over the place. Okay, so what do you guys have planned for the rest of the day? For me, my day is pretty much just starting. I won't be going to work this evening. Circumstances doesn't allow me to go to work this evening, but all of the things that I wasn't able to get done because of work, I'm going to be focusing on. One of the biggest projects that I want to get done today is preparing to transfer or transplant my plants because, as I mentioned before, I'm having problems with fungus knots because those 55-gallon European nightcrawler bin that I have in the garage, uh, because I'm feeding it food scraps and the food scraps is always moist. So the fungus knots got in there, and when I put my plants out in the garage, they go into my plants, and so I can see the difference with my plants. The plants that I have inside my house, some of them has the fungus knot because I was putting them in the garage as well. So for those plants that did not go out in the garage at all, they're looking quite rich and healthy. Anything that went out into the garage with those fungus knots out there, the leaves are yellowing. Some of the plants, some of my sweet pepper, not sweet peppers, but sweet potatoes, a few of those died, the smaller plants. Some of them, the leaves are curling, and when you dig around the roots, you see the fungus knots larvae because that is what they feed on. They feed on the roots of the plants. So I'm going to be, for those cool weather crops that are affected by the fungus knots, I'm going to be preparing the bed for them because I'm going to be transplanting them out, possibly on Thursday when it is a little bit cooler. And then for the others, I'm going to be transplanting them to different containers. And I'm doing something different because you might ask, why not just treat them with diatomaceous earth and neem oil and stuff like that? I do intend to do so, but because of the damage, the extent of the damage to my plants, I don't want to wait so long for the result. So I'm taking drastic measures. So as you're going to be seeing in tomorrow's video, the drastic step that I've taken in order to ensure that I get rid of all, if possible, of the fungus knots off my plants like instantly. And this method does not require any treating with diatomaceous earth or with any other type of pesticide, but I'm still going to be adding those to my to the containers that I am planting them in now. No, I'm not using heat. Let's see. And why it says I'm having a little bit of aphids on a few of my plants. Okay. Yeah, you better grab those neem oil. Han, and White, can you get diatomaceous earth where you are? Or if not, could you purchase it online? Yeah, you might have to grab that neem oil solution to deal with those aphids. What do they look like? You mean the fungus knots or the larvae? The fungus knots look similar to fruit flies. Fruit flies tend to be brown. Fungus knots tend to be black. And they tend to be, depending on how much food source they have, if they have enough food source and a good amount of moisture, they tend to be bigger, a little bit bigger than the fruit flies. As for their larvae, they tend to be transparent, almost look dark, but it's not that they're dark, it's just that the soil that they're in is dark. Their body is somewhat transparent, and they are usually about quarter-inch or less in length. And you will see them on the root of your plants. So if you want to know if you have, and if you want to know if you have fungus knots, that's what you're going to look for. You're going to look for the little black looking flies. They don't fly very well, they don't fly very far. They tend to hop more than how they fly. And you will usually see them around the perimeter of your potting soil. Or the yes, so you will see them usually around the perimeter of your potting soil. So that is what you look for if you want to know if you have fungus knots. So if you're, when you top water your plants, you tend to have fungus knots. And if your plants is overwatered, then you tend to have fungus knots. And I lost my point. Yes, so if you're going to be watering your plants and you have issues with fungus knots, one other step that you can take to deal with them is to allow the container or the soil to dry out to 2 inches. So when the top 2 inches of your container dries out, then that will help to kill the fungus knot that is in there. Yes, so allow the soil to dry out to the top 2 inches before you water again. I know sometimes it's not easy to do that, especially if the container that you are growing in is one of those little tiny cells or the tiny trays that is about 3 inches tall that you plant in. Yes, so sometimes allowing it to dry out to 2 inches. But even if 1 inch is what you can allow the topsoil to dry out as much as possible. Let's see. Okay, and White says, I don't know if I can. Okay. Russell says, I'll take fungus knots any day over aphids. That is true because it's easier to control the fungus knots than the aphids. So much easier to because you can actually get rid of the fungus knots. Aphids, once you start having them, you just have to keep controlling them, but it is hard to get them under control. But it is said that one fungus gnat can lay 300 eggs in their life cycle, and their life cycle is 5 to 7 days. And I can see where that is true because when I look in my 55-gallon European nightcrawler bin, oh my goodness, it's infuriating to see so many of them flying around there. But I gave them a nice dose of diatomaceous earth today, especially around the edges. So we're going to see quite a few of them. They're going to get it. And then I'm going to create a little neem oil treatment for them too and spray that bin because I don't want to have their eggs and their larvae in my castings. Mark you, there's no casting to harvest from that bin just yet. So I'm hoping to get them under control before I reach the stage where I'm able to harvest. Let's see. And White says I water every other day and sometimes every 2 days. How often you water it depends on how dry or how wet your soil is. So yes, I do water sometimes depending on the age of the plant or how dry the soil is. Sometimes I water daily, sometimes I water weekly, and it depends on whether or not the plant is moisture loving or not. Yeah, so just pay attention to how often you definitely have to water. Sometimes you might put your plants under a bit of strain if you don't water it, if you allow it to dry off too much, but sometimes that's the method that you have to take to get these pests under control. Let's see, my patient says, my mom once sprayed all over my uncle's most favorite fern when she saw bugs. She was caretaker while he was in Barbados. He came back to mostly dead fern. It's not funny, but it is funny at the same time. Yeah, I can just imagine how sad he was. Let's see. And White says she's getting the aphids under control. That's good. That's good. My herbs get water once per week. Yes, because I know herbs definitely don't like a lot of water. Yeah, there might be a few of them that likes water, but for the most part, herbs don't like water. Speaking of which, I need to get my herbs started. It is the best story ever. I remind her all the time. Oh Lord, I can just imagine. Yeah, so I don't know. I planted thyme from seeds and I started peppermints from seed. They germinated, and I don't know if it is the fungus knots that is causing it, but they didn't make it, they didn't even grow to quarter inch. And those containers, I could see that there are fungus knots in them. Even the thyme, and thyme doesn't like a lot of water, so I don't give it a lot of water, but it's the container still had fungus knots in it. So the thyme eventually died, the peppermint eventually died. So now I have to just go and buy the plants because I don't want to be starting from scratch where that is concerned. My rosemary, they germinated, a few of them, not a lot, but they're not doing well either. But I think since I started putting them outdoors a few days ago, they are looking a little bit better. But I've planted them. Oh, come to think of it, rosemary do take long to germinate. I think they said rosemary takes something like 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks to germinate. So maybe that's why they're so small because I didn't even know anything was going to germinate out of it. But they are here. I have about 4 plants. So as little as they are, I am thankful. I'm just hoping that nothing will happen to them. Because if not, then I might have to go and purchase some because to start them from seeds at this stage would be pretty late. Unless I'm going to grow them in container where even if they don't get big, I can bring them indoors when the growing season ends. Let's see. And why it says I transplanted my herbs into 2 garden storage container and they're doing well. I'm happy. I'm happy for you too. Yes. I think I'm hmm, yeah. When you play a lot, somebody usually end up crying. My son is crying. Yeah, so I think I am behind too with my squash. I need to plant my squash outdoors. I always wait until the growing season or after the last frost to plant my squash. But then I learned a few weeks ago that you can actually start it a few weeks before the growing season start. So now I only have 1 week before the growing season or before the last frost date. So I need to get that started. I planted the one that I got from Johan White, and that those are doing well. But the ones that I planted from the squash that I purchased, I haven't seen anything out of them. But then a lot of things that I plant in the last couple of weeks haven't germinated because the fungus gnat are taking over anything that is close. So that was my mistake putting the recently planted stuff beside the other containers that have the fungus gnat. But pretty soon I'll be able to get them under control. I have now taken out all of my plants out of the house. So I'll be able to clean up those bedrooms that I'm growing plants in finally. And hopefully, in the process of doing so, I'll be able to get rid of those fungus knots. Okay, so I think I am going to be ending this live shortly. I haven't had a chance to have supper and I can hear my tummy rumbling. So I'm going to go and get something to eat at the moment and then I'm going to go out there and start on my plants again. I have another 3 hours, 3.5 hours of daylight. So I'm going to go out there and see what I can get done. Let's see. And White says, the courgette seeds that you gave me are doing well. I've got 3 plants, but unsure as to when to pot them up. I'll do a little research on it. Okay, I'm glad that they're doing well. I know you were a bit concerned there. I don't think I'm going to be growing any courgette though, because if I am to be honest with you, the ones that I grew last year for the first time, I still have some of the courgette in the fridge diced up and frozen. I haven't used it yet, so I don't think I'll be growing any this year or any other year for that matter. Yeah, I still haven't tried using it to make bread. Can I still use it to make bread after I've frozen it? Do you know? Because I think that is the only thing I would use it for. Okay, so if there are no other comments, then I'm gonna say good night or good evening to you guys. Thank you for being a part of the live, for participating, whether by watching or by commenting. It was fun talking to you, and I hope to see you again on Monday. Oh, Marcia, it's Monday. I hope to see you again on Friday. Let's see. Mabejan says, you all have a blessed night and hope you enjoy the last daylight in the garden. I will. I definitely will. I'm gonna be out there until when it gets dark. You can put it in curry. No, I don't think so. Okay. And Russell says, have a great week, everyone. Wiggy says, take care. So bye guys. I hope you have a wonderful week of planting and preparing to plant. Stay safe. See you on Friday.